morning. I am Bob McKenna. I'm currently serving as the president of the board at Unity of Birmingham, and I want to tell you this morning that I love you and I love myself, and I'm so proud that I'm at a place in my life where I can say both of those things. Here at Unity, people are seekers, and they come here to escape dogma and ritual and really tune into their most authentic expression of what it is to be a human on planet Earth. We have a wide history here that's rich with notable people like Fannie Flagg and James Redfield and Catherine Ponder. And you are an important aspect of what it is to be Unity. We're all sharing from our hearts and being with one another so that we can reach our idea of heaven right here, right now. So I'd love to close our eyes and go into prayer and just relax and take a deep breath together. So let's close our outer eyes and go inward in prayer.
And now is our time for meditation. Just get comfortable in your seat, and you might want to place anything you're holding in your lap under your chair. So let's just take 3 deep breaths to let go of anything that we've had on our minds and just be here in this place together. So I'm going to attempt one of our chants. Since we don't have the music, I want you just to repeat it after me. The Father and I are one. The Father and I are one. God is, I am. The Father and I are one. And from our prayer of protection, wherever God is, I am. So if you're comfortable doing so, just close your outer eyes. And just bring up a thought of a disturbing or fearful thought or feeling. Doesn't have to be anything real dramatic. It could be something very simple. Any disturbing thought. And now imagine, where is that thought, that feeling in your physical body? And just breathe into that physical sensation wherever it is in your body. Breathe into it and imagine that feeling lifting like a fog, going back into the nothingness from which it came. And now breathe a sigh of relief. And now bring to mind whatever image you have when you think of the creations of God, us, as love. What is the image of that love for you? Is it a newborn baby? Imagine holding a newborn baby. In that essence of purity, awesomeness, peace, security. The baby is the essence of love, as we are all created to be. Is the baby loving me? No, the baby is love. And so imagine that love essence that you are as light, and allow that light to fill your entire body, every cell of the trillions of cells in your body. And now in each cell, each of those trillions of cells, imagine the tiniest speck of light. And imagine that light filling that cell, each cell, the light expanding to the walls of the cell and flowing over outside the walls of the cell. And the light from each cell meeting the light from each other cell, doubling, tripling, quadrupling the power and magnification of that light, until your whole body is filled with light, and the light overflows the parameters of your body and moves into the body and surrounds the body of one of your neighbors. And when Jesus spoke of neighbor, he meant anyone you think of. So whoever comes to mind, imagine them going through the same process of filling every cell with light until every cell is overflowing and the light is flowing out from the body. And the light of that neighbor meets the light of your body, and the power of the light is doubled. And the two of you greet two other neighbors, and the same process goes on and on. Now bring to mind the name of a neighbor, possibly who is a member here at Unity or a visitor. and imagine that light filling their body. And the power of your lights double and triple and quadruple. So imagine someone who was a member here once and perhaps they live in Texas, like Sally Richard, and bring to mind somebody that may or may not still belong to this church, because in truth, once you're a part of this family, you're always a part of this family. Time and space have no power over us. And so we see this light continuing to flow into other bodies and other communities and other cities, other states, other countries, until our whole planet is sparkling and overflowing with light. And we light up the universe. We have found no power that can stop this flow of love. And so let's own it and use it and share it and remember the Father and I are one. The Father and I are one. God is, I am. The Father and I are one. Wherever God is, I am. And when you're comfortable, you may open your eyes.
Hey, my Unity of Birmingham family. It's Reverend Dr. David Ault. And I am a lucky guy because I get to spend 4 consecutive Sundays with you in this brand new beginning of 2021. That's right. For the next 4 Sundays in January, I will be your guest teacher. And it is my intention and my aim to sort of blend together some mindful tools and to create a roadmap of inspiration that you can take in and willingly embody, and let us then all set forth on a path of just great, great, great transformation in this new year. And so I want to start with a little story that happened to me just last week. So I was gifted an opportunity to go away to a silent retreat. And one of the great things about Atlanta is there's just so much here. There's so much opportunity, so many different spiritual cultures. And there is a magnificent Jesuit retreat center here. I never knew anything about it. It's located in a beautiful scenic area of the city. And lo and behold, if they weren't having a silent retreat leading up to New Year's Day. And it was exactly the kind of thing that I was sort of looking for, praying for, in order to set the tone and the intention for what I wanted for myself entering into 2021. And I was able to sign up thanks to someone, and off I went. And in the silent retreat, it was led by one particular priest who, in my opinion, was the closest thing I've ever witnessed in terms of a mystical teacher. It was just extraordinary. And so all of the elements were rich, and they had meticulously mapped everything out to adhere to COVID principles. And so all of the rooms were spaced. And so there would be one participant and then an empty room and another participant. And in this dorm, in this retreat center, which was not glamorous by any means, the rooms that were empty would have their doors open. So as you would go up and down the hall, you could look in and you could see the similarity of all of the rooms. Perhaps the only difference was the poster or picture that hung on the wall. So some I could tell were pictures of flowers or of landscape scenes. But you're going to laugh because my room wasn't any of that. It was one of those sort of old 1990s motivational posters. You know, the one with the big word and then some obligatory sentence about the word, and it was supposed to get you charged up. That's what mine was. And the word on the poster in my room was change. And what was really interesting about it was whoever was the graphic designer had made the C of change, the first letter, really large, and the last letter, the E, really large, which then optically made the 4 letters inside stand out. And if you see where I'm going, how many times have you and I looked at that word, read that word, written that word, spoken that word, studied that word, been told that that word is an inevitable part of our existence, only to see nestled inside that word is the antithesis of that inevitability. So that word is hang. My interpretation of that was it was just a stunning, almost humorous reminder that in this free experience of change that is inherent inside of us, the thing that pulls us in our evolution is also the thing where we fight it, where we resist it. In other words, where we hang on. How do we do that? We fear change in so many different ways. We get accustomed to things, and so we fear the breaking of tradition, when in actuality, sometimes traditions need to be revisited and things need to evolve. We fear change with regards to relationships because we get comfortable. We fear change with regards to career because sometimes we fear that we won't be good enough or wherever it is that we're being called to go to, we won't be liked. So all of the stuff, all of the things that have not been fully examined and dealt with come up whenever change comes and knocks on the door. And here's the thing, change knocks on the door every day. That poster did have some sentence on there about change as an inevitability. In fact, it said that it's essential for our survival. And it's not just talking about us as a species. It's talking about us behaviorally. It's talking about us planetarily. It's talking about us consciously. Our consciousness must continue to change, evolve, expand in order for us to fully move into our soul's purpose. Because you see, we are here to remember. The change is about changing our relationship to the perception of not enough or the relationship of separation. We're not supposed to be changing in order to learn something. We're supposed to be changing in order to remove the forgetfulness. That's why I love the word reawakening. There's nothing that you are here to learn because inherently you already know it. What we're here to do is to systematically, with the process of change, to remove all of the barriers, to remove the collective forgetfulness, and to be willing to go into unknown territory in order for us not to learn, but to remember who and what we are. Isn't that extraordinary when you think about it that way? And so when we fight change, it's like we're fighting to stay asleep, rather than when change comes, we willingly lean into it and let it take us where it wants to take us. And that was so amazing being in this retreat, because other than listening to the priest speak on a daily basis, I spent a lot of time in silence and in quiet and in my room and staring at that poster. And so where might you have a resistance to change? We're coming out of one of the most demanding years that any of us have ever experienced. And by demanding, I'm talking about that circumstances demanded change. I mean, look at how we're doing church. And those of us who may have participated in with disgruntlement or been upset, what are we hanging on to? Because a lot of time, all of this disruption is good. It's good. It's good because it's taking us into a fresh start in a new territory. And so one of the beautiful things about change and examining why we fear it is usually tied into our relationship with failure. How many of you have failed at something? We fail at relationships. We fail at starting some new creative endeavor. We fail ourselves with how we take care of our own bodies. We do all kinds of things that are failures. But what if failure is a beautiful thing? Just like change is a beautiful thing. Because failure and change sort of walk hand in hand down the path of evolution. We call it failure when really it's more like an inevitability, a conscientious disruption that is necessary in order to get our attention, in order to cause a course correction, in order to bring some willingness of renewal. And so I think of failures as a beautiful thing. I think of failures as a gift. And I want you to consider that as well. And one of the awesome things about a new year is that we give ourselves a little bit more permission to sit in reflection than we do at other times. And I don't want to waste that opportunity with you. I want to encourage you to start this year with a fresh journal. And we can start together by writing the word change. And you can make the C really large and the E really large, and then look at that word hang and begin to ask yourself some questions. What are you hanging on to? What identities are you hanging on to? What stories are you hanging on to? What grudges and grievances are you hanging on to? And if we really want to be in partnership with change, which is living optimally, if we really want to lean into the adventure of where change wants to take us, then we're going to have to sort of loosen the grip of our hanging on. We're going to have to loosen the grip of our identity to the story. We're going to be given the opportunity to once and for all stop hanging on to the grudge and begin to cleanse the slate and to begin to wipe away the vapors and allow ourselves to clearly march in to the mystery, loving change and thanking failure, because each of those things have played a part. You know, the great New Thought teacher Michael Beckwith is very famous for saying, Pain pushes until vision pulls. Think about that. Pain pushes until vision pulls. Well, at what point does the pain stop pushing? The moment that you and I cease resisting the change. So it's like failure pushes until we allow change to pull us, if we want to use the words that we're talking about today. Failure pushes. Failure is a gift. If we allow it to push us into the decision point, that sort of tipping point, the line of demarcation where we surrender to change and we say, take us, take me to where it is that you want me to go. And if you're willing to do that, if you're really willing to begin to look at the failures or the things that you hang on to and begin to bless them rather than curse them, begin to turn to them rather than distract yourself or medicate yourself from them, begin to be in conversation with them. Have you ever written down something that you think you failed at? Like actually write it out and then talk to it and say, what was it that you wanted to teach me? And then let yourself write that. Have you ever looked at the things that you are hanging on to? Write them down and ask yourself, why? What is the motivation? What am I getting out of this? Rather than allowing myself to be fluid and flexible. Some of the other ways in which this is described is our relationship to attachment. If you look at any mystical teaching, Hindu teaching, we are shown that attachment in and of itself is the root of suffering. Same message, isn't it? The things that we hang on to are a part of the root of our own suffering. And so when we can begin to see that the hanging on, the attachments are simply going to create a false ceiling that we will continue to hit. But you and I are designed to be boundless. So when we keep hitting the ceiling, a new level of disgruntlement and fed upness will begin to take over until we allow something to burst through, until we allow the failure to push us until the change can pull. And one of the things I like to say is then that ceiling, that self-imposed ceiling, suddenly becomes the floor by which we stand upon. I want us to explore what it would be like to become more lighthearted. I want us to look at our infinite potential, and not from a place of intellect, but from here. What would it be like to live from here, where this portal of the heart lives in expectancy of my infinite potential? Well, that infinite potential is very much dependent upon my relationship with change. I have to get comfortable with change. I have to laugh at change and the way in which it shows up every single day. And I get to experiment with what it's like to really, really be in relationship with intention. There's this wonderful book that I'm reading. It's called Rolling Thunder. It's a Native American book that somebody lent me, and I'm really enjoying it. And it talks about a Native American master teacher by the name of Rolling Thunder, who was very prolific in his teaching, very wise, very revered decades ago. But he was at a conference, and the writer saw him at a conference. And Rolling Thunder knew that there was someone in the audience who was very much desiring a healing. And Rolling Thunder explained that he really had to check in to see what was the reason why he might call this participant up to do the healing. Was it from showmanship, or was it from a true intention to lift this person out of their suffering? He chose to bring them up on stage in front of everybody. And he did his Native American traditional healing practices. But before he did, he asked the person who was wanting the healing, why? In fact, the word was, what is the reason? What is the existence of the reason why this healing is important to you? What is the existence of the reason why this healing is important to you? So I want you to write that sentence down in your journal too. What is the existence of the reason for the resolution that you wrote? What is the reason for the existence of the vow, of the cleanse, of the goal that you have set? What is the existence of the reason? Because the existence of the reason is important to the healing. Because the existence of the reason is important for the goal. Because the existence of the reason is invaluable for the sense of resolution, resolve that you are picturing and desiring to take place within you, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. The existence of the reason. And so the word existence means the state of aliveness. What is the state of aliveness of the reason? What is the state of the aliveness of the reason? Because that's important to what you're going to experience. So you see, what Rolling Thunder was asking was, why are you doing this? Why are you engaged in spirituality? Why are you making resolutions? Why are you listening to the broadcast? The more that you can dive in and ask, why? What is the existence of the reason for your pursuit as a spiritual seeker? You can then begin to see whether or not you're trying to run away from failure. You can begin to see whether or not you're just cocooning yourself in a protective shield by hanging on to old ideas. Or you can get clear on the existence of the reason. You can get clear on your willingness to drop all of the story, all of the history, and be available to the beauty of change. You might want to listen to this a couple of times. You might want to sit with those pages, and you might want to become very patient and in tune with the voice that's wanting to communicate. What is the existence of the reason? What is the reason of the existence? Why are you doing what you're doing? And when you can really get tender with yourself and ask these beautiful inner inquiries, then we have somewhere to go. Then you can begin to see the perfection of all the things that we have labeled failure. We can see the beautiful failure. We can begin to love all of the characters in the play. And we can begin to set sail on an adventure that is rooted in our own intentionality. I believe in you. I believe in myself. I believe in us as a species. And there are more and more people who are loosening their grip and not hanging on to what was. Something so divine is working with us in order to help us experience that as a collective. Again, look at what we just went through. Let's not miss the opportunity by trying to hang on to what was. Let's not try to go back and recreate what everything looked like before the pandemic. Let's not go and be in a hurry to participate in the customs and the rituals of life itself and miss the lesson. And so there's still some time for us. I believe by the spring we'll be coming out of this cave, if you will. Let's be in the cave mindfully together. Let's do our work. And let us begin to shed all of the story and sorrow or anything else that might be holding us back. I look forward to peeling away the layers and diving deep with you this month. God bless you. And thank you.
Thank you so much for attending today's service. It was a pleasure being present with you. There are many ways that you can tithe. We have the button that you can click on Facebook. We also have unitybham.org where you can donate if you feel comfortable through our website. And also feel free to drop by and visit us anytime. And now our prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. See you next week. Love you. Bye.